Good morning, grade 7. This is Ma'am Laarni Obilio and welcome to Science Online Class. We are now on our Module 6B or week 7. Our topic is about the organism and the ecosystem in a relationship. Our MELCs for this week is to describe the different ecological relationship found in an ecosystem. This module will help you describe the different ecological relationship in an ecosystem. Specifically, you will learn to identify and describe the different ecological relationships found in the ecosystem, as to mutualism, commensalism, and parasitism relationship, and describe the role of the participating organism in every type of relationship, as to predation and competition. So, as we recall our topic last week, we discussed about the ecosystem. When we say ecosystem, it is an environment or community where you can find living and non-living things coexist and interact with each other. It includes the biotic factor or the living things and the abiotic factor, which is the non-living things. So, for our topic for today, we are going to discuss the different ecological relationship. So, what is ecological relationship? It is the interaction between and among organisms with their environment. So, we have different ecological relationship in the ecosystem. First is mutualism, commensalism, parasitism, predation, and competition. So, yan yung 5 na yon. So, iisa-isahin natin siya ngayong i-discuss. Okay, first, we have the mutualism. When we say mutualism, it is a biological interaction between two species wherein both the species benefit from each other. From the word mutual, pareho. So, pareho silang nakikinabang sa isa't isa. Examples of mutualism, the bees and the flower. Both are being benefited because the bee is getting honey for its hive and it's also spreading pollen to create more flowers. So, nakakakuha ng pagkain yung bees at the same time, nakikinabang yung flower dahil natutulungan siya ng bees sa pollination. Another example is the sea anemone and the clownfish. The sea anemone protects the clownfish and the clownfish brings food back to the sea anemone. So, both organisms benefited from the interaction. So, the next kind of relationship is commensalism. So, pag sinabi naman natin commensalism, it is a relationship wherein one organism is benefited while the other is unaffected or unharmed. Okay? Isang nakikinabang samantalang isa, hindi siya apektado. Okay, one example of this is the cattle egret and the cows. The cattle help the egret who looks for grasshopper and beetles that are raised by the cows. Now and then, they sit on the back of a cow looking for ticks and flies. So, this does not affect the cattle in any way. Okay, so isa lang yung nakikinabang samantalang isa unaffected. Another example is the trees and orchids. Yung orchids, nakakukuha siya ng shelter and protection mula sa trees. Samantalang yung trees is unaffected mula dun sa interaction. So, tatandaan nyo lang, from the word commensalism, isang nakikinabang at isang hindi apektado. Okay, next example or next relationship is parasitism. So, when we say parasitism, it is the relationship between two organisms wherein one organism, the parasite, thrives at the cost of the other, which is the host. Okay, yung isa naman nakikinabang samantalang isa as affected mula dun sa interaction. So, we have two different types of parasites. We have the ectoparasites or we call it as external parasite. It live on the outside of the host. Example, ticks, fleas, and mosquitoes. So, pag sinabing ecto, ito yung nasa labas na parasites na nakakaharm mula dun sa host. Another one is endoparasites or the internal parasites. They live inside the host body. Example, bacteria, protists, and tapeworms. So, nakakaharm sila mula dun sa loob ng katawan ng host. So, other parasitism examples, fleas and cats. The fleas bite the cat's skin, sucking their blood and causing them to itch and possibly get sick. The fleas in turn get food in a warm home. So, yung parasite dito, yung fleas, at yung host naman is yung cat. Yung cat yung naaapektuhan ng interaction, samantalang nakikinabang naman yung fleas. Another example of parasitism is the wasp's egg on back of caterpillar. The wasps lay eggs on the back of caterpillars. When they hatch, the larvae eat the caterpillar. So, ang host is yung caterpillar at siya yung naaapektuhan at ang nakikinabang is yung wasps. Another example of parasitism is the mosquitoes and humans. Mosquitoes feed on the blood of animals. Sometimes they pass on other parasites. Malaria is an example to the host. Okay, so lahat na ito ay example ng ating ectoparasite. Okay, another example naman ng endoparasite is yung bulate sa loob ng tiyan. So, nakikinabang yung mga parasite, for example, yung tapeworm sa loob ng tiyan natin. Well, ang affected naman doon is yung animals or humans. Another example of interaction in the ecosystem is predation. The process that one organism, the predator, captures and feeds upon another organism, which is the prey. So, predator, siya yung pumapatay, prey, siya yung pinapatay. One species will benefited, while the other species will be captured, killed, and eaten. Isang nakikinabang at isang na-harm, or either namamatay siya or nakakain. Okay, we have example of predation. Okay, on the picture, we can see that the lion's eating a buffalo. Okay, predator natin is the lion kasi siya yung kumakain, and the prey is the buffalo kasi siya yung kinakain. Another one is snake eating a frog. The predator is the snake, siya yung pumapatay, and the victim is the prey, which is the frog. Okay, so that is an example of predation. And the last one is competition. So, competition is a relationship wherein similar or different organisms compete for a common organism for their food or a common place for habitat. Okay, ito naman, pag sinabi natin competition, from the word competition, nagko-compete or naglalaban sa same resources daw, it's either food, shelter, o yung territories nila. So, we have two different types of species competition. We have interspecific competition, wherein competition exists between members of different species. Magkaibang species yung involved. Samantalang sa intraspecific competition, competition between members of the same species. Nag-aaway sila sa iisang resources, yung dalawang magkaparehong species. Okay, we have the lion and the cheetah fighting for food. Okay, since nag-aaway sila sa same resources at magkaibang klaseng species sila, we call it as interspecific interaction or interspecific competition. Another example is the bee and the butterfly fighting for nectar of the same flower. Okay, isang resources lang yung pinagkukuhaan nila at magkaibang species sila or magkaibang nilalang or organism. So, this is also an example of interspecific interactions or interspecific competition. Okay, another one is animals fighting for the same habitat or territories. Okay, nakikita natin sa picture, magkapareho silang species or organism na nag-aaway sa kanilang teritoryo. So, that is an example of intraspecific interaction or intraspecific competition. So, again, we have 5 types of ecological relationship. We have the mutualism, parasitism, commensalism, predation, and competition. Okay, things to remember. Ecological relationships are the interactions within or between different niches. A niche is a way in which organism fits into an ecological community. It is the role of an organism plays in the ecosystem. Tandaan yung role na ginagampanan ng isang organism, we call it a niche. Interspecific interactions are interaction between different organisms or species. Examples are flowers and bees, sharks, and remora fishes. Magkakaibang nila lang. Intraspecific interactions are interactions between similar organisms or species. Examples are two peacocks compete for the same peahen to be their mate, and zebras feed on grasses in a temperate grassland. Symbiotic relationship refers to the close interaction between two or more organisms. It may or may not be beneficial to the organisms involved in the interaction. Mutualism, commensalism, and parasitism are examples of symbiotic relationship. In parasitism, the parasite lives in its host and is benefited by getting nutrients at the other expense, while in predation, the predator immediately kills its prey to eat it. The interaction of organisms in the ecosystem exists not only for food, habitat, and other resources for their survival. This also maintains the balance in the ecosystem. Okay, so hindi lang dahil sa pagkain or tirahan sila nag-aaway-away. Itong mga rule na ginagampanan ng bawat organism ay nangyayari para maging balanse yung ating ecosystem. Okay, so things to do for this week. Okay, you are going to answer first the pre-test. Okay, you are going to read the question carefully and write the letter of the correct answer in your notebook or in your paper. Okay, so looking back naman on page 3 of your module, you are going to study carefully the picture found on page 3 and you are going to identify the biotic and abiotic components of the ecosystem. Okay, next on activity 1. Okay, with the title Harm or Benefited, what's the relationship? Okay, based dun sa na-discuss natin or dun sa natutunan nyo, okay, you are going to complete the table by writing positive or plus sign kung yung organism ay nagbe-benefit sa interaction, minus sign or negative sign kapag yung organism ay na-harm dun sa interaction, at yung 0 or O kapag both organisms benefited from the interactions. That is on page 4. Okay, for activity 2, okay, you are going to identify the ecological relationship of the organism based on the illustration. So, that is on page 5. Okay, so for activity 3 naman po tayo. Okay, so with the title, What's My Role? Okay, you are going to complete the table by filling what is as in each column. Okay, and for activity 4, okay, interaction at home. Okay, you are going to observe and list down some ecological relationship at home. Okay, yung mga napapansin yung interaction na halos katulad ng discuss natin, yung mutualism, competition, predation, na matatagpuan nyo lang dun sa loob ng inyong bahay. For example, yung alaga nyong aso at pusa na nag-aagawan sa same resources. So, those are examples. Then, after that, okay, you are going to answer yung check your understanding post-test and reflection on page 8 to 10. Okay, once you're done with your things to do for this week, just take a picture of your output and send it to me via messenger. Okay, my FB name is Laarnigay Ubilio. And if you have any question, you can PM or chat me in our group chat. Okay, so yun lang po yung lesson natin for today. Thank you and have a good week.